Well, good evening to all of you, and I'm sure the speakers before me have cleared you what exactly we mean by inclusive learning. As a teacher, many of the times we become very happy when we see the faces of the children in the classroom, and probably even more happier when we see the children, they respond to us very nicely in the classroom. But probably we are forgetting here there are many children who are not so fortunate to come to your classroom. And what I could understand from this term, inclusive learning, is how you can find out what could be the ways or what could be the methods by which all the boys and girls, they come to your classroom, and not only they come to the classroom, once they come to the classroom, I believe 50% of the challenge is over, but the 50% of the challenge becomes now what should be the design of your curriculum you prescribe. So far what's happening with our education, what I could understand in last 25 years of my career as a teacher, that we have a same kind of curriculum, same kind of methodology, same kind of technology, and we have a heterogeneous group of children. So probably the time now demands we have to find out what the child really requires and what kind of method will help the child, and that is what all about the inclusive learning says. Here I have tried to include the term ILFC. Now here what exactly I mean by ILFC. ILFC stands for Inclusive Learning Friendly Classroom. Now, inclusive learning friendly classroom is that which includes everyone, regardless of anything, whether you talk about the gender, it does not discriminate on the basis of gender, it does not discriminate on the basis of physical appearance or the social status or the emotional level, or you talk about IQ, EQ and SQ and all, or any other characteristics, or even the child is a very gifted child or the child is a slow learner, or what kind of disability the child is having. But ILFC is that is we call about inclusive learning friendly classroom, is that where this kind of discriminations are not there. I personally as a teacher had been to number of schools, and what witnessed is sometimes knowingly or unknowingly we as a teacher discriminate the children. I have seen the schools where they call so-called ability sections, that on the basis of this percentage, a particular group of children would be put in a particular section, or particular children would be put in this section, and probably there the thought is very pious as a teacher, probably will be helping them by making them the homogeneous group. But we forget that we unknowingly we are discriminating the children, and now it is a very high time, it is the need of the hour, what exactly the inclusive learning is and how it can take place in the classroom, and what teachers should do for the inclusive learning. And dear friends, I suppose first of all, a teacher has to know and understand the true meaning of education. What exactly we mean by education in today's scenario. When I just go through the dictionaries and I find the dictionary meaning, what exactly we mean by education. Education, this word comes from, this has been derived from the Latin word educare, and it stands for E for out and ducare is bring. That means everything is there in the child, within the child. Only the job one has to do as a teacher is to bring out those hidden qualities, that hidden potential, what the child has. And probably in a very right context, Swami Vivekananda told, education is the process of bringing out the perfection which is already within one. The child has it, but only as a teacher what I have to do is, I have to understand what kind of hidden talent the child is having and how can I carve it. That is what. And probably it was Mahatma Gandhi who told education is the development of body, mind and spirit. It's not only mind. For a long time we were talking about, okay, the child gets this much percentage, or child gets this kind of grade, and the child has been rated as one of a good student or so-called intelligent student. But we have ignored that the healthy mind house in a healthy body. And for that you require the physical activities. What Mr. Kantpal rightly was telling about, the number of assignments are there in the school, whether you talk about their games period, their hobby period, their examination schedules, their mess routine, and what not. So it's not only the mind which is to be taken care by the teachers in inclusive learning, but it's a body which is very, very important. And then comes the spirit. And spirit, when I say, I do not mean any religious sentence here, the spirit. Spirituality does not mean any religion, but spirituality means if mentally the child is sound, definitely he will perform very well, and that is what Mahatma Gandhi told about the education. Now, even sometimes I was going through the principles given by the Aurobindo. And Aurobindo says that there are basically two principles of education. And one is, the true teaching is nothing can be taught. You cannot teach the children. Now the question arises, when you cannot teach the children, why do we have so-called big schools and the big teachers like all of us? When nothing can be taught to the children. But this first principle can be understood by the second principle, which says that mind has to be consulted for its own growth. So the first job as a teacher is, first you consult the children, you make them prepare for that, whether they are ready to learn. But what we generally commit the mistake in a classroom, as a mathematics teacher, I go in the class and without caring for their mental status, what was in the previous period, I don't care for that, and I just start, okay, now I'll start teaching you quadratic equations. Isn't it? So first of all, I as a teacher has to consult them whether they are ready or not for the studies. Does not mean that all the time you do not teach in the classroom. First, I mean, if we talk to them, we try to know, we build up the rapport. The rapport is very, very important in my opinion, friends. Rapport between the child and a teacher. And that helps you a lot. Once the rapport is developed, I think the subject becomes easier for the teacher as well as the learner. Now let us talk, sometimes it is, the term is misunderstood, that inclusive learning and excellence. So I think excellence lies in the understanding and thinking differently. I'll not be going in the depth as I have been given 10 minutes time, and otherwise we all know about the taxonomy of education, the steps given in the taxonomy and the kind of pyramid is given in the taxonomy. But yes, excellence lies in the understanding, and it moves from one failure to another failure with the enthusiasm. That is what excellence is. If still failure is there and you do not lose your enthusiasm, then find you are moving towards the right direction. Excellence cannot be matched with success. It cannot be achieved by the intellectual development. This is what says about the excellence. When we talk about excellence in the school student scenario or school education scenario, basically it can be divided in three parts. Academic, that I think we all are doing wonderfully well as a teachers, and all the time we say ki these many children have got above 90%, or these many children have got 10 CGPA and what not, or these many children have got selected in IIT, JEE or in medicals. That is what academic, all the schools are doing wonderfully well. Environmental, when I talk about, do we really provide the kind of environment to the children in which they find easier, or the conducive atmosphere, you call in the other words. The environment is very, very important. Environment does not mean that you have the AC classrooms in your school. Environment does mean that it should be a friendly atmosphere. When I say friendly atmosphere, I mean here the teacher should have a kind of friendly behavior with the child, but should never be the friend of the child. Because again, this term is misunderstood, and when you become the friend of you can never become a friend of a child. You can be friendly with them, and even the environment, I mean, they become very, very sensitive about their own environment or not. And the very, very important, which in the last few years probably we have ignored, I think as in our Indian education scenario, we have created the number of doctors and engineers, but I really doubt and I have fear in mind whether we have created the good human beings or not. And that is what today's time is. And I think if we talk if we take any education board, particularly as I have been associated for a long time with CBSE, so I understand now what these people have started. You call it a life skills, or previously we used to call a value education or moral education. That is nothing but that is trying to create the good human beings. Because above all, if you are creating the doctors and the engineers who do not have the human values or who do not care for the human values, probably I think the purpose of education would not be served in the right sense. So I remember here once Mahatma Gandhi visited to one of the school. I heard from one of the resource person this story somewhere, and he took a round and very profoundly the principal has shown everything. This is our very beautiful chemistry lab. Probably we have a library, and which is the best library in the state, and what not, art of state, and this and that, and blah blah blah. When he was sitting with the staff room, and then even he was introduced, well, Mr. Jain is a very good accounts teacher, or Mr. JCD is a very good English teacher, and so on. Then Gandhiji asked to the principal, I make to your English teacher, your accounts teacher, your English teacher and all, but I do not know who is the teacher of these children. So, first of all, being a subject expert is always good. One should excel with the subject. But before that, one should try to become a good teacher. And that is what I could understand from that question. One should be the teacher of a child first, and then the teacher of a particular subject. So that is what the human touch we give to it. And as you know, 2 decades before, it was told about learning to learn, that one document was released by Government of India where Dr. Karan Singh was the president of this committee, and the booklet says learning the treasure within. And learning the treasure within, they were basically talking about learning to learn, learning to do, learning to know, learning to be, and learning to live together. Does really it happens in the classroom? Or still we have shifted from examinations, or we have shifted from 3 hours year-end examination to now summative, or from summative to formative, or so-called CCE. But really this purpose is served or not? Do really they understand how to live together? Do they understand from this? Are they live how to live in the present? And if they do not know the value of now, that is present, probably I think our learning will not be the inclusive learning at any point of time. And that is probably somewhere it was told, when I listen, I forget, when I see, I remember, and when I do, I understand. And that is the reason probably if the children are involved, the involvement is a very, very important factor. If the children are involved in every activity, I think they will understand and they'll keep in mind for a longer time. And for a long term, that has to be the long-term goal of the education, instead of having a short-term goal. How do I teach my child so that he performs very well in the examination, and at least this year, because I am his teacher, he pass in the examination. And not has to be. And if it does happen, then exactly what is going to happen and what would be the benefits of this inclusive learning, I think we'll have the number of brainstorming sessions, and to have a brainstorming session, you will require to give the freedom, the controlled freedom. When I say freedom, I mean a controlled freedom in a classroom, that the groups, they discuss, and you welcome their ideas. Sometimes it is going to happen, the kind of things they are sharing may not be having any sense. But if you do not give them the opportunities to speak, you do not encourage the children, probably there might be some good ideas and creative ideas which will not come out. That is probably the reason, if you see about research, where do we stand as Indians, so in research or in plain sciences, the number is decreasing, and I feel that is probably the reason, somewhere we do not allow the children to think. Or we have a kind of a mindset and we ask them to go on that particular path. which is probably wrong, or any child who goes or who thinks out of the box. We probably as a teacher do not like, or as a teacher I like if I taught this problem by this method, only that method the child should write. Rather, I believe as a teacher we must welcome if any different kind of method is used by the child. And if it happens, it would be inclusive classroom, inclusive learning friendly classroom, and brainstorming would be one of the benefit out of it. Research would be other benefit. The child may, when they sit in the group, they learn from each other, they learn the caring and sharing, they will know how to read, how to write, and then otherwise what is happening, if you talk particularly about any subject, may say language English, you have the number of sections like reading skills, writing skills, listening skills and whatnot, but does really it helps the children, and whether they have increased these skills or not. So personally I feel that those have been taught in the classrooms and the children are getting the marks out of it. But probably the skills are not developed. So where the problem is again comes once anything is attached with the marks or with grades, it is not going to help us. So can we have the kind of method where the marks or the grades are not the rewards, but the other things are the rewards? Here again one thing has been misunderstood by many of us, that is probably the punishment kind of thing which is helping the teachers all the time. I find what can we do for the inclusive learning is one has to understand the difference between the punishment and a discipline. Okay, I mean how the punishment is different from the discipline. I was going through some of the literature, and what could I find is there had been some myths, and the few I'll share with you if the time allows. Generally we teachers forget that this thing I am teaching, probably if I am a teacher of a 10 years experience, I am teaching this the 10th time, 11th time, but the child is learning it first time. So that is what we generally forget, which is to be kept in mind. Then generally we believe what was right at our time as a student, that is today also right, while the time has been changed drastically. And it happened to me, and it did me no harm, so the same will happen with my children. That is what the wrong conception is there. Nothing else will work, and so this method will work. That is what we forget. And if it had been true, then I really surprised how we probably were 3-4 brothers, sisters, how our parents grown up us, and how difficult today to grow up one child, which we have 1 or 2. So probably the fact is time is changed, and with the time the teacher has to be. Another myth I found is corporal punishment works best, other methods don't. It could be serving the short-term goal, but on a long term you will find it does not work. Rather, corporal punishment even does not teach the obedience to the child. Then I only do it as the last resort. I had no choice. I think as a teacher, nothing should be the last resort. Rather, as a teacher, one should be the researcher to find out if the child is not learning by this way or the method I teach, can I discover the methods by which the child learns? And I was going through one of the, I think, slogan probably given by Asset Ahmedabad. And they say that the photograph of one child is there, and they say that the child is saying to the teacher, if I do not learn the way you teach, can you teach the way I learn? And really it is a great challenge for all of us as a teacher, can we really find out those methods? So friends, I have got to sleep to wind up as soon as possible. So I'll be telling you the meaning of a discipline. I understand is discipline is the practice of teaching or training a person to obey the rules, the code of behavior in both the short and the long-term goals. And I'm sure as a teacher, if we use the inclusive methods, probably we'll be able to do. There are many things and many speakers to come here. So I'll close down the session here.